And we are live for yet another Mamas Beyond the Matrix here, coming straight from Medellin. And if you don't know, my name is Jay. I'm one half of Mamas of the Matrix. We have our lovely
Kelly. I am the other half of Mamas Beyond the Matrix. Welcome to another live episode. We are here every Friday to tell you guys about living in Medellin Colombia as a family and give you all of the information if you're thinking about relocating or even just doing an extended trip for a little while to see how you like it. We're here to give you that information and be a resource for you guys. So welcome. Today's topic is going to be about the hidden cost of living in Medellin, Colombia.
Yes. So many people, we hear this all the time, and we have even said this ourselves, that you can live in Medellin for probably half the cost of what it would cost you to live in the United States. And although that is very true and can be true, there is another element to that, and that's the hidden cost of relocating, the hidden cost of moving and living in another city. And of course, our platform, we talk about Medellin Colombia, but really these tips and tools that we're going to talk about today can go for any place that you may consider moving to if you're looking to relocate out of the United States.
Yes. So I hope you guys stay tuned and engaged, take some notes, and we're going to give you more again of a overview because we can't really give specific costs because costs change. Mm-hmm. So we're going to try to give you examples of what we paid. And just kind of give you an idea so that you kind of know what to expect, but know that it may be a little bit more than what we are saying, or it could be a little less depending on what it is. So just keep that in mind.
And there's so many people who have so many questions. Well, what about this and what about that? And what's the cost of this and what's the cost of that? And I know you and I get asked these questions so many times from people who are either back in the States and wanting to know what is it like being abroad, but we're here because we want to talk about the surprises or the things that we had to learn the hard way that we want to make a little easier for you with navigating and planning for your family to relocate to a city like Medellin.
Yes, but before we go forward, for those of you who may be new and don't know who we are two mothers and families that have moved from the United States to Medellin, Colombia. I have officially been here about a year now. And
we're going on 2 years.
Jana has 2 little girls, mm-hmm. and I have 2 boys, ages 9 and 6, and
mine are 4 and almost 3.
Yes. So we have some similarities in regards to our experiences and also some differences, right? Mm-hmm. And if you look at our other videos about education, housing, and all of the other things we've talked about, you'll kind of hear those differences. But a lot of it is very similar. So I know a lot of you out there have maybe some small children and may be concerned. Check out those other videos because they can definitely help you and give you an idea of what to expect.
Mm-hmm. And I talk about some information for the littles, and since Kelly's children are a little older, she has those school age wise advice for those who are moving and relocating. So I like the different perspectives that we can come with navigating a new city and a new country and a new place.
Yes. All right, well, let's get into it. And why is cost of living like such a thing? Because it's important, right?
It is.
Even if you're in your home country, like cost of living is number one. You want to make sure you can afford to do everything you're doing in your household. So in this section, let's just say, we're going to talk about, and I'm looking at my notes. If you see me look down, we have notes so we don't forget anything. But we want to focus on like the luxury apartments and, how people really overspend, really, where people go wrong. So like getting the luxury apartments would be one of those things. Comparing rent only to like the United States versus here, like that's a mistake. Ignoring relocation expenses, skipping the one-time startup costs for things. We think about that when we're in our home countries, but we don't really necessarily know exactly what to expect in another country. And don't reflect on, or you don't have time to reflect on your life with your family because you're moving too fast. So some of those things are like the pitfalls. So let's get into it and let's kind of go into more detail and in depth, all right? So people forget to budget for the moving expenses. This could be either your moving expenses, if you're moving directly from abroad here to Colombia, or if you're already in Colombia, like you may be in Medellin and want to move to another apartment, there's still going to be moving expenses like you have in your own home country. Now, I know many of us in our home countries, we have a house, we stay there for a while, whether we own it or rent it, but we usually stay in one spot a lot of times, especially when we have little ones. We don't like to uproot them and move them around too much.
They have their friends, they have their school, their play dates, their activities. You tend to keep them involved with what they know.
Yes. However, when you're moving to a new country, you're going to move a little bit more than you expected. So, for example, myself, I've been here 1 year, as stated, and I've moved apartments, like kind of apartments that I stayed in for 6 to 7 months. I've moved twice. But before that, I was in several different Airbnbs, maybe for a month or two. You know, and it was just kind of moving around because we had to figure out where we wanted to live, how we like the different neighborhoods. Even though I had an idea of the neighborhoods, I wasn't quite sure how I felt living in different parts of the city. So we moved around quite a bit at first. Then I got my first long-term apartment for 7 months, and now I'm in my second one. But I'm gonna have to move again by the time my time is up here, because I got this place through Airbnb. I didn't do a regular long-term lease and someone's booked it. So now I know I need to move again in November. So my goal is now to really try to find something where I can secure it long-term, get it set up the way I want it to be set up, and get comfortable. I think that's just been our main thread we were just talking about before we even hopped on here today, is that like we're both really ready to just be comfortable and have our own space and be settled. And that is a challenge. It's definitely a challenge for me because I'm not used to moving around so much.
I want to kind of take a rabbit trail off what you're talking about here so people can understand, because somebody might be asking, well, why are you staying in an Airbnb? Why don't you just rent a place directly? Well, there are several reasons why people, when they first relocate to a new space, why they choose to do an Airbnb. One is because it's the easiest and quickest way to find a place that is furnished. If you haven't brought your furnished, or if you're not importing your furnishings over, which we'll talk about a little later, it's the easiest way to kind of get rooted and settled in a neighborhood where you have the comforts of feeling like home and not needing to immediately go out and buy furniture. But another reason why a lot of people who are foreigners who travel abroad do that is also because you can negotiate with the Airbnb host where you can do short term, like maybe let's say a month, but you're like, I really like this place. I like the neighborhood. I'm finding things for my children in this area. How about we work out something maybe offline, off market, and it kind of works for you because you're paying a little less. They're getting a little more on the margin, and you may cut out the middleman of the Airbnb. Now, although I have to understand that there's some liability that may come with that. So if you have developed and established a good rapport with the Airbnb host, maybe go that direction. But I would advise to use caution because sometimes people can get burned that way. But for a lot of people who move, this is one of the tips or one of the ways that they may decide to move. And that's why Kelly is mentioning living in the Airbnb.
Yes. But even with me moving from my apartment, where I had a lease to an Airbnb, I still had moving expenses because I still had to pay someone to help us move all of our luggage. At this point, I have like a desk and a desk chair. We have plants. Like we have things that we've accumulated to make us comfortable since we've been here. So it's not just about getting a little car, getting an Uber and just putting everything in it and moving it yourself. When you start accumulating things or you have so many things, you need help. So I actually have to get a moving truck to help move from my old apartment to this apartment. And I'm going to have to do it again when I move into the next one. Now, before getting a moving truck, we used to rent vans. So here you have a lot of drivers, right? And you can contact a private driver and just let them know that you need a large vehicle, a van, and that you will be moving so many suitcases or bags or whatever. And that's how we would move before. But that was also before I had furniture, plants, and all these other things, oven and, microwaves and all the things that I've had to buy. it was just suitcases
to make home feel like home.
Right, to make it feel like home. It's things we really just need, you know?
Right.
But now, it's a moving truck. And I know it's going to continue to go from there, because if I move into an unfurnished apartment, that means now I'm buying furniture and appliances, which means I'm going to have a bigger moving truck. So it's going to be that same situation that you would have in your home country. So you have to keep that in mind. In addition to those moving expenses, you also have, of course, you're going to have to pay probably something up front, like your first month's rent. Sometimes they want you to pay a deposit. Sometimes they don't. So it's just, you never know what you're going to have to pay for when you're moving to another place. So you just need to be prepared and have that cash available. And then, of course, whenever you're going to a new place as well, there's always going to be something you need. It could be just the towels. It could be sheets, just like household stuff that you need to get, especially if it's unfurnished. You're starting from scratch. And that adds up, especially when you're talking about kitchen stuff,
kitchenware,
and which is really
bedding, linen,
right,
towels,
linens,
all of these things.
That stuff adds up. So those are some things you need to keep in mind. Now, another thing that people don't really think about or consider is visa costs. A lot of people don't even know what a visa is. I still get questions to this day, even people who are traveling here, like, how do you stay here? Like, how do you do this? And how do you do? They don't know that you have to apply for a long-term visa, because a lot of Americans are used to moving out the country. Most people stay in America and don't have to deal with this, and we just travel and come on back to our home countries, right? So we usually are on a tourist visa, or if we do need a visa for another country, we know, you have what we need to do get that done. But a long-term visa, another situation.
It takes a little more time, a little more effort, and it's easy to travel to a lot of places that allow Americans to go in on a tourist visa. And I'll give you an example. For here in Colombia, I believe it's 180 days that you can stay here on a tourist visa. So as a tourist, you can is it 180 days?
Well, it starts at 90 days.
Sorry, 90
days. You
days.
can get an extension for an additional 90 days, but you have to pay for that.
Thank you for correcting me, because I'm like, wait, I don't think that's right. So 90 days. So just think, if you were just traveling and exploring and wanting to get used to a country, you can come here. And a lot of people don't stay longer than a month or two. So 90 days is sufficient, and people don't think beyond that. But if you're looking to relocate and you're looking to live somewhere else, then you have to start thinking long term, and that entails visa requirements and expenses to pay for that visa.
Right. So when we're talking about visa expenses, we're talking about an attorney, someone who's going to help you. Now, you can't do these things yourself if you feel like you're capable of doing that, but most people hire someone to do it for them that is experienced, so that they make sure they have everything correct and can get that visa approved. So usually hiring an attorney or someone who works and does visas for a business, a living. You have to also pay the government once everything is like put in and they approve you. You have to pay your fees for the actual visa to the government. Now, on top of that, you got to think about the requirements, the documents, the paperwork. So all of the documents that are required for your visa, you have to get them apostilled. That's another cost that could occur, and that needs to be done usually in the United States or wherever you're from. However, I know that if you work with some companies here, you can get it done. However, that's just going to be another fee. It's not like all of these things are a la carte. It's not an all-inclusive fee. You also have to have your FBI background check. That does not cost, I don't believe, but you do have to pay to get it apostilled. So that is
paid for ours. We went through our attorney, so
but again, it was still another fee, right?
It was another fee.
Yes. So these are all these little things that you don't think about that add up. So keep those things in mind.
And that's just the visa process. That's just the visa process.
That is just the visa. And keep in mind that, when you apply for your visa, and if you're coming as a family, you have your main person, head of household, who would apply and pay. And then the beneficiaries fall up under that person, but they still have to pay for those beneficiaries. So every person in your family has to pay some type of visa fee. And you have to make sure you make enough money to cover all of your dependents if you're the head of household. So just put that in your mind. Deposits. Deposits. We talked about that a little bit when we had our renting video.
Yes, another video.
Sometimes you have to pay a deposit. Sometimes they want 2 to 3 months. Sometimes they want 6 months. It just depends. Sometimes they don't want anything at all. It really just depends on who you are dealing with.
Now this is outside of Airbnb,
right?
course.
This is outside of
this is
Airbnb.
outside of Airbnb.
But even with Airbnb, once you book a property, you guys know you go on Airbnb, they're going to
Yes.
take that first month's rent out immediately.
Mhm.
You may not be leaving, for another couple months, but you're going to pay that first month's rent up front.
Mhm.
So that's still really technically a deposit, right? To be prepared for. It's just the benefit of you can put that on a credit card.
Mhm.
Here, you got to have cash.
Mhm.
Cash. There's no credit. You don't have credit here. So everything has to be cash, which can be a strain
Mhm.
because we are used to using our credit to kind of like, okay, we can just put it on a credit card,
Get the point.
and then we can pay for it later because we know it's coming up later. We can still, it's just like a holding spot, right?
Mhm.
So that's another thing. Are there any other deposits? Like you have utilities. Did you all have to pay for deposits for any of your utilities or
We
anything
didn't pay
like
a
that?
deposit for any of our utilities.
Okay.
Nope.
Okay. So then it's really just the apartment.
It's just the apartment.
Okay.
Mhm.
And then we talked a little bit about setting up your home, all of the things you need to buy to make it feel comfortable for you and your family. I know you want to probably bring a lot of stuff to the country, but you can't. You just can't. And even from
I
my
don't advise it.
No.
We don't advise it.
no, not if it really isn't necessary. You can get majority of the things here. Electronics do cost more here. However, it's like you got to think about it. If you want to ship a TV versus buy one here, you're going to probably pay more to have it shipped.
I mean, I'll give an example of knowing a family who is a family of 4 or 5. I'm trying to remember. And they decided to import their house basically from back in the States to here. And that was nearing like $20,000 just to do that, when it makes so much more sense to either store your things away in storage if they mean that much to you, or sell everything. Don't even have that weight on you. With the exception of your sentimentals, I would say keep your sentimentals, bring those, or store those away. But the furniture, the appliances, and all of those things, you would do yourself such a disservice to try to bring those over here and get those imported here rather than just buying them here.
And then a lot of times when you import stuff, it takes a very long time. Things get held up in customs and all kinds of things. They may want you to pay extra fees for certain things.
And we got the tariffs right now.
Yeah, you got tariffs going on. So it's a headache.
Financially, it's not the best decision, from my opinion. It wouldn't be the best decision when moving abroad. Not here, not to Medellin.
Yeah. Now, some things that I've done just as a little hack, if you guys want some things. I brought what I needed when we first got here. However, whenever I've gone home to visit, which hasn't been a lot, I've only been home twice now in the year that I've been here. I brought back stuff that I knew I really needed or really, really wanted. But I was at that point where I'm here, I know it's available, and I'm like, I could buy it, but I know I have it, and it's small enough for me just to throw in a suitcase and bring it back when I go take a trip home. So I have brought a few things here from home out the storage, but I think at this point, I don't need to bring anything else. But for example, I have a security system that can work anywhere, right? And I know that's something I can't get here in Medellin. And I know it was something I needed and wanted, so I brought that back. My speaker, I know I can get a speaker here. But I like my speaker, and I was like,
why buy another one?
Why buy another one? I'm going home. Let me just bring it back.
So if it fits, it ships. Did it fit in your suitcase?
If it fit in my suitcase, then it's brought here with us. So those are some things you can do if you know you're going to be taking some trips back home. But also keep in mind, how long will you actually be in Colombia to be bringing all of this stuff? My goal is to stay here as long as possible, long term. At least several years. I don't know if it's going to be my forever place, but at least several years. So I know, hey, I'm going to be okay. Or if I do have to leave, there are storage places here that I can store for just a little bit and then come back and get it, which I prefer not to do, but it is an option, right?
Right.
And let's see, what else? Daily family expenses.
Mm-hmm.
So even if you're coming into town and just getting set up, immediately you're going to get hit with, what are we going to eat? Immediate. What are we going to eat? You have just landed. You're hungry. You've been in a line for who knows how long. You've been traveling for who knows how long. Just expect you're going to have to get something to eat probably for that day. And the next day, potentially, you could probably make it to the grocery store the next day, depending on what you have going on. But at least expect 1 or 2 meals the day you arrive, depending on what time you arrive, and then at least breakfast the next day.
Mm-hmm. And one of the tips that we had in one of our other previous videos, I think it was the renting in Medellin or finding a home in Medellin, is if you can find a place that includes breakfast, especially if you're a family, especially if you're a family with young children that are not independent and cannot make their own food quite yet. Even if they can, you may be at a hotel, you may be at an Airbnb where you don't have the groceries yet to even cook the food. So to alleviate some of that initial stress of your first few days is find a place that will at least serve breakfast, either a hotel or maybe an Airbnb or booking.com reservation that you can also have breakfast included. It will help. Trust me, it will help save on some of the initial stressors with relocating.
Yes. Now, outside of when you first arrive, you still will have your family expenses that you just may not expect. I mean, the kid's gonna want to be entertained. Mm-hmm. When you first get here, you're going to want to go out and about, because a lot of times people don't think about when you move that you have time, like you have time to do the tours and the touristy stuff and all of that. Sometimes people don't think like that. They're thinking vacation mode, but actually this is living. Mm-hmm. So sometimes you have to put yourself in check and think of the perspective like, hey, we are going to be here at least 3 months to 6 months if you're on a tourist visa, which is still a plenty amount of time, right?
A lot.
And or longer if you decide to stay, you can take your time with those things. So slow down. Don't worry about jumping into all of the things, the activities and this and that, because I know that was a trap I fell into, trying to keep the kids entertained. They weren't in school. I'm trying to figure everything out as well as get them out the house and off the TVs and the tablets, because, I don't want them doing that all day. However, that comes with an expense. Anytime you leave the house,
comes with a cost.
You're going to pay something, because if you're hopping in a car, that's an expense. Mm-hmm. You can walk down the street, but a lot of times, our kids, can we get something to drink? Can we get an ice cream? Can we get a snack? It's always going to be something. Mm-hmm. So even going to the malls, they have all these activities for kids, and your kids are going to want to do something. Or while you're out and about, you get hungry. That means you're feeding the whole family, So keep in mind some of those things. And we've also talked about in other videos the expenses of like schooling, activities like extracurricular activities. We've talked about some of those things as well. So anything else you want to add?
No, these things, just understand that you have your expenses and then discretionary expenses. And those are some of the things that we want to address and talk about so that you understand, hey, I know I'm planning for these things, but maybe you didn't consider the lifestyle of the activities for your children. And to be honest with you, comparatively, the cost is not going to hit the same as if you live in the United States. But if you are not mindful and you're going out and every day doing some of these activities, family activities, or eating out, it will start to add up, and you won't be able to really see the difference of the cost of living here in Medellin like you would if you plan just a little bit better and space things out.
Yeah, because you definitely will get caught up in it. And I know this happened to me. Oh, we can go to the movies for $5 or however, $5 US. Wow, we're used to paying $20 US per person to get a ticket, or something close to it. So you like, oh, this is cheap. Oh, we can do this, we can do that. Oh, like Jay just said, it adds up, and then you look at your statement and like, where's my money? Or you're looking at your bank account like, where, how did I spend all this money? It's like little bitty costs. Even the cars, $3, $2, but it adds up. It adds up. And if you're taking multiple cars a day, it adds up.
It goes from we can do this, oh yeah, we can do this, to how do we do this?
Right.
How do we do this?
To slow down.
So having that budget on point is going to be key when relocating.
Yes.
There's going to be so many different financial things that you just don't expect the first few weeks that you move here or relocate to wherever you relocate to, that you just want to be mindful of those things.
Definitely. So, how people go to another country that the cost of living may be less than where they're from, and it's like, oh, this is so cheap. This is so cheap. And it's like, ooh, okay, it's not though. And so you have to really, really shift your mindset and think in the prices of the country you're in. And that's hard to do at first because you just don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But once you're here for, or wherever you end up being, once you're there for a while, you get used to, okay, this is what this costs. This is how much eggs cost. This is how much rice costs. You know, like you start, this is how much my grocery bill kind of is.
Mm-hmm. On
and
average.
you start understanding a little bit, and I'm still working on it, but still, you start understanding like, oh, wait a minute, in Colombia, this is expensive, you know? So even though it may not be as expensive for us because we're coming from somewhere else, here is expensive. So
it's a learning curve with that. You learn as you live. You learn as you live.
And that's part of the struggle with the housing, right?
Yes,
for me,
true.
Because I'm like, I know that the local people are not paying this much, right? This is high. But however, as a person who's a foreigner, I get charged this much. Now, is it really high compared to the United States? So is $1,200 really high for a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom place in the United States? No. However, in Colombia, that is extremely expensive. And that is really on the lower end for rent. For us, it goes up from there. I mean, I know people paying over $2,000. Are you serious? Like, no. So that's a struggle I have with the cost of living here and kind of adjusting my mindset. And it bothers me. And that's probably why I haven't found my place to settle in really, because I'm like trying to find something that's more cost effective and makes sense. But I'm not really finding it, and it's not happening because there's so many people moving here that they know they can get that price. They're just going to charge it because they know people are going to pay for it. So
yeah, and it's important to know this because as a foreigner, you need to understand the cost of local living, because if not, then we become the gentrification. We become the problem in these growing and emerging cities with a lot of foreigners, where a lot of foreigners are relocating. And if you don't know, then you would think it's just, oh, it's simple, it doesn't cost a lot of money. But then we start outpricing the locals, and that's one of the things you don't want to do if you're really trying to be a part of the community, if you're really trying to give back to the community that's giving to you and allowing you to live at a place that's a lot more reasonable as far as the cost. You don't want to just take and not be able to give back. And so these are some of the conversations that we have a lot of times with some of the foreigners here, is understanding. There was a family that came down to visit, and I was so happy to meet with them, and they were excited. We were talking about doing all these family activities, and she was like, I'm going to be really sad when I go back home because I was able to do all of these activities with my children and it didn't cost that much. And I gave her an example. We were talking about the zoo and she was telling me how much it costs. I was like, oh, okay. I said, that's how much it costs on a normal day, but there's a discounted day. And in her mind, she said, yeah. But compared to the United States, this cost was really good. And that's how I know I've been living here a little longer, because I'm even understanding the normal cost and the discounted cost and the local cost. Like, what do the locals tend to gravitate to in terms of cost?
Right.
And those are the differences, the subtle differences that you'll have to learn as you grow with the community, so that you're not outpricing and outpaying for things, because then things from a standard standpoint just start to creep up. And then we start pushing out the locals because there's so many of us willing to just drop this money and pay that. And so that's something that we have to be mindful of.
Yes. So let's go ahead and kind of focus on when you are actually moving to Colombia. And we talked a little bit about some of those expenses, but we're going to do a deeper dive because I know majority of you who are watching us are actually going to be moving here from somewhere else. So let's go ahead and get into that.
Yeah, so let's talk about like when you're first moving, like Kelly said. So what are some of the costs that you incur when you first move? We have the flights, right? You have the luggage that you pay for. You have when you first settle down, either the hotel, the Airbnb, wherever you're going to stay when you first land. These are things you want to be mindful of. So now, like my family, because of the way we travel, it doesn't make sense for us to purchase round trip tickets. We always buy one-way tickets. But then there's a caveat to that, because when you come to Colombia, especially here in Medellin, they are going to ask you for your returning flight. So a lot of people come here thinking they need to have a return flight when technically you don't. But there's little tips and tricks and ways to get around that by showing an itinerary, showing that you have a round trip ticket, but maybe you don't because you know that you're going to be here for a little while. But you can, for online, they have different websites where you can buy tickets. Like it looks like you have a round trip ticket for like $15, $20. And that way you save yourself a little money on the front end with buying the ticket and just maybe buying a one-way ticket. Your luggage. Now, Kelly and I, it sounds like we travel the same kind of way because we travel as light as we can. We have go bags back in the United States, and my husband and I, my family and I, we rotate between 3 states back home quite frequently. So we have clothes and things set up. So like we just needed to get on a plane with a backpack. We have a whole setup when we go back home. And so when we traveled here, we moved from Mexico. So we traveled here with just backpacks and a suitcase, as much stuff as we could because we knew we were wanting to relocate here, and then going back and just refilling out those same backpacks and suitcases and bringing them here so that we're not going to get overcharged those weight fees on the luggage, and because that can add up. I think some airlines, it could be anywhere from $50 to $150 for overweight bags. So we just got back a couple of weeks ago from a visit in the United States, and we were overweight by 10 pounds on our suitcase because we had people we hadn't seen in a long time, had gifts for us, had different things for us. And we had to, at the airport, we had to figure it out and say, okay, we got 10 pounds. We got to figure out getting rid of the 10 pounds because it would have made more sense to buy another suitcase and pack the suitcase than to pay a fee for overweight bags. So we figured it out. And liquids, if you don't know, if you're not a frequent traveler, your liquids are going to be what weighs you down the most in your check baggage. So just be mindful of that.
Yeah. Hold on for just a second. Now, I'm a little bit different because you guys travel to the States more often than I do. So you guys are able to do that, right? To go back. Me, I knew I wasn't going back anytime soon. So we've been here before I went back to the States. I think we were here about 9 or 10 months before I actually went back to the States for the first time. Okay. So when I first came, I had 9 suitcases. Ooh. I had 9 suitcases. Ooh. Yes, and I was prepared to pay the extra fees but I actually paid it up front, so it's a little bit cheaper.
It is cheaper when you pay up
front. Because I was like, well, it's cheaper for me just to pay this versus trying to rebuy something or have it shipped or whatever the other expenses would have been.
That's true.
And it was at that time it was 3 of us.
Mm-hmm.
So each person so I had to work it out, and that definitely pay attention on your airlines. Yeah. So if each person gets 2 check bags and I pay extra for that, right?
So you only pay for 3 additional bags.
Well, actually, I didn't really, because the additional bags were the roller bags that we can put on.
Oh,
so we had each person had like 2 big bags that we automatically had, but again, I had to get the upgrade. This person had the 2 bags instead of 1, right?
Okay.
Then we each had a roller carry-on, and then we each had our book bag.
Okay.
So that's how it kind of added up.
Oh yeah, that adds up.
But that was the cheapest way that I could make it happen. Mm-hmm. So yeah, just kind of look at your costs and figure that out.
Mm-hmm. And we've had to finagle and maneuver and figure that stuff out too. Trust me, because we had little babies. So when you have a diaper bag, they don't count your diaper bag. So there's a lot of times we were trying to figure out how to do the carry-on plus the diaper bag, and we were able to make it work. So just be mindful of your head count, your luggage count, the extra luggages. You just really need to be mindful of that per airline because they're all very different. And so with that, your temporary housing. So you've got your luggage, you got your flight, you are landing, boots on ground in your new city. The weather is beautiful, the birds are chirping. Where are you going to stay? Mm-hmm. Where are you going to put your roots? Your temporary roots, for a lack of words, where is that going to be? And again, we said this: Airbnbs, hotels, those are usually going to be, and that is what we recommend, because if you're looking for a place remotely, That's how a lot of people will scam you. There are places that you can get through like Facebook Marketplace, or you can go through a lot of the rental. There's several different rental websites here in the city where you can rent a home. But our advice, and I know Kelly and I have gone through this quite a bit, is to get there first and then start looking at places, because you don't know if it's in a great neighborhood. And then you might be a family that's coming from maybe a rural gated community, and you get to some of these places and you hear some of the noise, the street noise. It can be a lot if you're not used to the city. And so you want to be able to see the place that you're going to move into from your temporary launch pad. So that is going to be key. But just keeping into consideration that these are some of your initial fees. Also, we talked about already the deposit. Now, we have another video we mentioned before, how to rent in Medellin, or finding housing in Medellín Colombia. And one of the things is a deposit. Some places will ask for a deposit. Sometimes it's 1 month, sometimes it's 6 months. And understand, if they're asking for a 6-month deposit, that's not your rent. That's 6-month deposit plus you're paying your monthly rent. I would try to stay away from those listings and those posts, but sometimes they do that to foreigners to secure the rental lease, because they know we're transient community. We come and go as we like. And so just like we don't want to be burned, the locals here don't want to be burned either by some of the transient community, the people that come and go, because there's really no way that they can track you down and say, hey, you owe us this amount of money for skipping out on your lease 3 months in advance. And so we don't want to do that to the local community here, because they got to eat, they got to survive as well. So be mindful of that. But we already talked about the supplies, the bedding, the kitchen, everything that you need to set up and make your house feel like home. And I know as women, sometimes men, they might be a little particular too, but mostly it's
not about kitchen stuff.
Not about kitchen stuff. Unless they're a cook, let's
say usually.
But we have our little trinkets and candles and smell goods that we want to have, the plants to make it feel like home. So these are some expenses that can creep up on you if you're not thinking about them, to just feel like home,
Yeah. And then think about also the phone situation.
Oh, let's talk about it.
Yes. So SIM cards or eSIMs.
The eSIMs.
Sometimes people don't even know about that stuff. But you do need to have a phone that's working in the country that you're moving to. So that's going to be another expense. You don't have to buy a whole new phone if you don't want to, unless you want like a little cheaper phone where, you don't worry about it and you can carry it out and about and you're not worried about it getting taken or anything like that. But most people have their regular phones and pop another SIM card in.
If it's unlocked, it has to be an unlocked phone.
Yeah, it has to be.
So if you have a phone that's paid off or unlocked, then you can put your SIM card in there and you can get around like a local and use the local SIM. Why is this important? This is important because this is a public service announcement. You don't want to get hit with a $400 phone bill like I did when I first moved here. And that was just me. One bill. And let me tell you why. We moved here from Mexico. And so our phone service provider is like the US. So when we lived in Mexico, we did everything like it's the same service, US, Mexico, and Canada.
Right.
So there wasn't too much different that we needed to do with our phone service living in Mexico. We had unlimited data. We had all of the things. So it was like being in the United States. Well, moving here to Colombia is not the same. And for every phone call that I would either accept or make on my regular line would be 25 cents a minute. And then I found out if I didn't answer my phone, but somebody left me a voicemail, that's 25. And I never even checked my voicemail. That's still 25 cents a minute for how much time they talked on my voicemail. I'm sharing this with you because I don't want you to fall into that category. So We use things, if you don't want to use a SIM card, then things like Google Voice is an option because you can use the data, you can do Wi-Fi calling, the same thing as WhatsApp. If you're a traveler, an avid traveler, I don't have to explain WhatsApp to you. If you're new to traveling, or if your family's trying to travel and you want to know how to figure out how to communicate, WhatsApp is going to be the main form of communication for people who are traveling worldwide. It's one of the number one tools that people use to communicate. So that's a way to get around using your main line to communicate and save you some money by using those apps. Google Voice, WhatsApp. Is there another app that you may use?
No, those are the two.
Those are the two that I use.
WhatsApp,
Call on Facebook, call on Instagram. Just try not to use your main number for phone conversations because it will cost you. It will definitely cost you. And then setting up your home so that you can feel like home. Also, your internet connection, as well as your transportation when you first moved here. Many people are not coming here with their vehicles. They're not coming here with their cars. So you're paying for public transportation, whether it's Uber, whether it's Didi, whether it's what's the other one, InDrive. You are going to pay for these services, whether it's a taxi, whether it's a moto, whether it's transportation like a Sprinter van for your family, especially if you moved here like Kelly did with 9 pieces of luggage and 2 children. I'm pretty sure she wasn't getting in the Uber like that. You had to order a Sprinter van.
Yeah.
So these are some things that you want to consider. And then once you got to your home, from there you can Uber. But keep into consideration that these come with a cost. Now, to be honest with you, the Uber cost here is not going to cost you that much money. Like, to travel within the city for what I need, I might pay anywhere from $2 to $6 one way for the little distance that I need to go. And that's anywhere from a couple of minutes to maybe 30 minutes away.
Yeah.
Now, I'm trying to remember how much the cost, and you might remember because I think you were more recent. Did you do an Uber from the airport to the city? Do you remember how much that cost?
Those are usually anywhere between $40 to $50.
Okay.
But with the dollar changing, that could fluctuate a little bit, go up a little bit, but around $50.
And I was going to say $48. And so, mind you, the airport from us is about an hour away, give or take, depending on traffic.
Yeah.
And so from the airport that is in Rio Negro, the city of Rio Negro in Colombia, that's about a 45-minute distance from Medellin. And depending on where you are in Medellin, we are in the La Reales area. And so that would be the cost to get from the airport to the La Reales area.
Right.
Now, there are ways to travel cheaper from the airport, to get on a van. It'll take you to like the San Diego area, the bus.
Yep.
So there's different ways, and that's a fraction of an Uber cost, seriously, a fraction of the Uber cost. So those are ways to get around and cut the cost there. So what are you bringing with you? What are some of the things that you must have that you want to bring with you when you land in maybe it's not Medellin, but wherever your desired city and country? What are some things that you're going to bring with you? And what are some things, the more important question is, what are some things that you can leave back at home that you do not have to bring? What can you sacrifice that you don't have to bring with you that's going to weigh you down and not only weigh you down financially with the fees, but also physically, because you have to carry all of those things. So think about those things. And if there's something that it's non-negotiable, I'm bringing with me, of course, you bring your kids. Please bring your kids. Please bring them. If you relocate with all your family.
Right.
But what are some things that are non-negotiable, must come with me? And then what are some things that, you know what, maybe on another trip when I go back home in 6 months or 3 months, I can maybe get those things at that time.
Exactly.
Put it in the comment section. We want to see.
Yes. All right, so let's go on to another set of costs that people don't think about as far as daily life. Now, we've talked about like utilities and internet and all the cell phone stuff, but we also talked about household items, school supplies. It depends on what school your children are in. I can tell you my children were in a private school when we first came. The school supply list was extensive. I feel like everything that they may have needed in that school, I had to buy, from art supplies to music stuff. And mind you, my kids are in elementary. So they're not playing instruments like as a, what would we call it? Not a hobby, but as what do we call it? Somebody trained, like trained.
Okay.
Like if you want your child to be trained on piano or guitar, whatever. No, this was just regular little music class, and I had to buy little instruments like a little flute or a little jingle bell things. And it's like, I wasn't used to that. I wasn't used to buying art supplies. I mean, all of the art supplies, because in the United States, art supplies are there. We have a school shopping list, but it's not what I saw here for a kindergartner and a third grader.
This is a private school.
This was a private school. Now, in the public school that they are in, school supply list was extremely short. Like I barely needed. I think I brought too much. So it really does depend on what school that your child is in regards to school supplies. But that is something that caught me definitely off guard, and I had to buy their books, which I wasn't prepared to do.
Oh yes,
because I did not know. So that was a whole nother set of expenses. So yeah, just keep those things in mind when it comes to your children. The extracurricular activities at school also cost a extra amount. In the States, we're used to, they want to play basketball after school, football, cheerleader, whatever. It's not really an expense to play, even though you may have to buy the uniforms and pay for certain things. You don't have to pay a monthly fee for these things as an extracurricular, and you do here. So another expense to think about. Streaming subscriptions, which we already have if you're probably in another country. If you want to watch your shows that you're used to watching, you're going to have to keep those streaming subscriptions going. So we still have our Netflix. That's the only one we have now. But many people have Disney Plus, Hulu, Netflix, and all of the other apps that you want. You may want to think about downsizing and eliminating some of those things because you want to save on some costs and maybe keep what you really, really need, which is why I said we only have Netflix. And then we rely on like YouTube to watch TV as well. But I don't watch that much TV. So it's not that big of a deal for me. But the kids, of course, want to see the TV and their cartoons. But they've been okay with just Netflix and YouTube. So.
Or consider doing the Fire Stick, or
we have
another provider that you can get all these other channels and streaming subscriptions from in one place. That's something that we do. But we had the Netflix, the Hulu, the Disney Plus, and honestly, we still have those. We don't have the Disney Plus anymore, but we still have some of those streaming services. But we also have like a platform that we could go to watch a lot of things. So I probably need to cut out some of my subscriptions, but that's key. I'm glad you brought that up because that is key.
And I'm glad you brought up the Fire Stick because that's a key thing to watching your shows as well. Because everything is already set up on your Fire Stick or your Roku. I have both. So I have a projector that we bought here, and I just hooked up a Roku to it. And then our TVs, we have a Fire Stick, and I just hook that up to the TVs, and we can watch whatever we want to watch. The kids have their Fire Stick, I have mine. So like we have multiple. However, once you set up your Netflix and this and that on those devices, you don't have to worry about anything else. It's done, right? Just plug it in and connect to the internet, and it's done. So pet care. A lot of people come with pets.
A lot of people come with pets.
A lot, because this is a country where they love their pets, especially their dogs.
Love them.
Yeah, so that's another expense as well. Even just getting your pet to Colombia is a requirement. You have to fulfill some requirements, which I understand are pretty stringent.
They're extensive between the immunizations, the paperwork, and then the cost of the additional storage for them to board on the flight. Depending on if you have a ESA, a service dog, and all of these things. And the reason why we don't want to get into the expense of these because they change so often. We did have a 4-legged fur baby when we moved to Mexico, and so the cost was way different and then that's another country. Than it is here and now. And I know at the time, I'm not sure if it still is, but if you have a service, a documented service animal, then you don't typically have to pay for certain things. Like I think that they can fly in the cabin with you, the passenger cabin with you on the airplane. But if you don't, and if it's an ESA support animal, emotional support animal, or if it's just your regular pet, then you're paying some additional fees for them to fly. Now, all of these things change over time, so you want to also make sure that you're inquiring with the airline, inquiring with the country that of entry, because there have been some sad stories where people have to like part ways with their pet families because they didn't do their research and either had to leave them behind in another country or not bring them from their home country.
Yeah. And then another one that we don't really think about, laundry. So here in Medellin,
Yes.
dryers are not common. You can get a dryer, but it's going to be an extra expense if you're renting a place. Definitely an extra expense. So most people are used to hanging their clothes, but there are some places that don't have a washer at all if you're renting it just temporarily, and you may have to go to a laundry service. So keep those things in mind that, you know, when you first arrive or when you're booking a place, really make sure it has a washer if that's important to you. Sometimes it's important for a dryer for some people. They just cannot live without a dryer. So when you're looking at those furnished housing on an Airbnb or wherever you're renting from, make sure it has what you are looking for. Otherwise, you're going to be paying a little bit extra to get your clothes cleaned until you get get to the place you're going to be.
Now, there are laundry services here where you can go and you can take your clothes and wash them yourself. They also have laundry service here locally where you can use WhatsApp and you can call them. They'll pick up your laundry and they'll pick it up, clean it, bring it back, and drop it off. So that's also something that can be used as a resource when it comes to handling your laundry.
But it is still another expense.
It's another expense
that we are not probably prepared or thinking about. So just make sure you keep those things in mind when you're booking your accommodations.
And if you're a family, that's going to be important. If you're a family of more than 3, laundry is important. Even with just 3 people, laundry is important. How you clean your clothes, where you're going to be able to clean your clothes. Because I know just living in a house, not even traveling, that's the main thing. Like laundry day. Laundry day.
And when you have kids, especially small kids, you already know, like, yeah, you're
the
gonna
messes,
they're gonna
the spills,
they get dirty.
The play.
They get dirty. So you have to stay on top of washing clothes. So I think the last thing is to be conscientious of imported food. I know when I not even first got here, but I know I spent a lot on groceries when I first arrived because I just didn't know where I should be shopping. So I know I was shopping at the more expensive places than I should have been, and I've learned to decrease my groceries a little bit, but still you're going to probably spend more money on groceries. And a lot of times people are so used to the food from their countries, they don't want to look at alternatives or take the time to try alternatives that are local. Imported food is going to cost way more than the local.
Sometimes they don't have alternatives either. Depending
on
what it is, sometimes they don't have alternatives.
And if they do have, sometimes they don't have some of the local, the imported stuff too. You got to go to certain places, and if you go to those certain places, you know you're gonna pay more money.
You pay way more money.
Yeah. So yeah, kind of keep those things in mind. Don't shop according to what you're used to from your home country. Shop according to what's comparable in your current country. Sure. And that will help you out a long way when it comes to groceries.
In terms of brands too. And sometimes you have to be willing to be flexible in like your brands and what you're used to. One, because they don't have them here, and if they do, they're gonna cost a lot more. Or 2, to be honest with you, probably not the healthiest. And they have healthier options here in the country, but you're so used to, I don't want to throw out a name, I was going to throw out some names, but you're so used to this type of grape juice, this type of apple juice, this type of, where locally it might be fresher, richer, less preservatives, just healthier for you. So just be open to trying something different until you give and take a little bit and find what works for you and your family.
Yeah. So I can definitely say my first 6 months here, I know I overspent on some things just because of ignorance. I didn't know until I had to learn or got to know more expats, and they asked the questions and they would tell me where to go or to try this place, try that place. So I know my groceries, I was spending way more than I should have. Of course, rent, I was spending more, but I think that's all of us.
Yes.
I don't think we can really get away from that. I feel like I could have shopped more for schooling a little bit, but I did shop a little bit. However, I was in a situation where my kids didn't know Spanish, so I wasn't comfortable putting them in a Spanish-speaking school, which would have been cheaper for me. So, just things happen. You got to get adjusted. You got to get used to it. It is a learning curve that's going to cost you, but it kind of is what it is, But my question to you is, what monthly expense surprises you the most? Out of what we've talked about today, what has surprised you about what we've said?
Monthly expense back home or monthly expense
here that we've discussed? What would be the most surprising?
That they didn't know would be an expense.
Right, that would be an expense that we've discussed. What let us know. You can just put it in the comments. Let us know, and is because there were definitely some things that shocked me.
And I've had some people who come in and they're like, man, I thought I was gonna save money on this, and I feel like I'm spending way too much money on food. I feel like I'm spending way too much money on transportation. And I'm always asking questions, much like how your people ask you. I'm like, you're not doing it right. You're not doing it right. But that's the learning curve and the cost. And that's what we're going to talk about. The cost of learning, the cost of adjusting, the cost of learning the language, the cost. These are also costs. It may not always be a financial cost, but it might be a time cost. It might be that learning curve. These are things that you want to factor in to getting used to a new place, but also giving it a fair chance to really decide, is this a place for me or not?
Right.
When you come for the first time, or if you travel to any place for the first time and you're wanting to put some roots there, I would say don't judge it off the first 3 to 6 months. I would say after your 6-month mark, then start judging it, because you have more of a tried and true relationship with how living in that country is really going to be, living in that city is really going to be, because up until that point, you're kind of trying different things, tweaking different things, checking out different neighborhoods, using different transportation services to see what is more feasible for you and your family. So just keep that in the forefront before you judge a place or make a decision. Give it a little time. Time. At the bare minimum, give it that tourist visa amount of time, that 90 days, try to give it that amount of time. And so, but what also is considered a cost is the time that it may cost to set up some of your accounts. Kelly and I know we had a difficult time when we were trying to set up our internet. I don't think we really had internet for about a month. Even though we were paying for internet service at our home, it wasn't working for some reason. And that cost us, because now we have to go, and this was a cost that we weren't expecting.
Yeah.
But because we work from home and we have to do things, now we have to go sit at cafes, and that costs too, because you're going to patronize the place that you're using their internet service. So whether it's getting a coffee, whether it's getting a sandwich, whatever it is, as little as it may be compared to the United States, if you have to pay for that every day, a little adds up.
Yeah.
A little adds up. And that was something that we found ourselves in until we were able to get our internet situation figured out. But that cost us time and that cost us money to figure that out. What else? We have finding your trusted health professionals, from your dentist to your doctors and I'm the type of person, I'm very loyal. If I find somebody, a medical professional that I'm comfortable with working with, I want to stick and be with that person from however long I need to be with. But it's trying out different things when you get to a new country and just figuring out whether or not this person works for you. For example, maybe you find a specialist that you need to help with whatever you may have health-wise going on, but you find that person is not bilingual and that person doesn't speak English. So you might feel a little more comfortable working with someone who is the same specialist, but finding someone who's bilingual for you so you can understand and you can feel comfortable. That may cost you some time. It may cost you some research in finding that right person. And transportation, because they may not be close. They may be on the other side of town in order for you to see that specialist. So these are some things that you want to keep into consideration.
Now, on top of that, though, remind people that you are going to have to pay out of pocket unless you have insurance, local insurance in the country. you're gonna have to pay out of pocket for those medical appointments and all of those different things. And we're experiencing that now. And those are unexpected costs, especially when your kids get sick out the blue. We know kids get drop of a dime can get sick or something happens. You got to be prepared to have cash to pay for the doctor. So another expense you're not expecting.
So yeah, you keep all of these in, that's why that discretionary fund when you travel of expenses, I don't know what this fund is for. That expense jar, have that set up too. Have the planned expense jar, but also the incidentals, the discretionary, because you just don't know until you put your feet here and figure out, okay, this is how we're going to navigate as a family.
Yeah.
But speaking of navigating as a family in a foreign country, one of the costs of living in a foreign country is being homesick. And we were just talking about homesick and being homesick for several different things. Maybe it's the culture, maybe it's your family, maybe it's your friends, maybe it's the life that you created there. Maybe it's a homesickness for just familiarity. Maybe it's the views where you live. Maybe you live in a beautiful, beautiful place and you uprooted yourself from one beautiful place to another beautiful place. And for whatever decision you decided to move, that is your decision. But sometimes that comes with a cost of being homesick for your familiarity, the things that you love and enjoy, you grew up on. So that comes at a cost. So make sure you have a planned way to reconnect with back home. Maybe that's a Zoom call with family, a Zoom call with friends, but staying connected to your unit if you need that. Because some people disconnect and they don't need that at all. But if that's something that you need, plan for that because it will make your transition a lot better. And for some people, it may make it a little difficult because you're keeping in contact with people. You might miss them more. So know who you are as a person and what you need, but plan for it because I don't think many people understand how being far away from home can impact you. But not only you, you have a family. And if you have children, especially teenagers, and I think we need to do a special podcast on families moving with teenagers because I have a heart for them. And I feel like it's underserved and we don't talk about it as much. But the teenagers are really impacted by families who decide to move away and they have to learn another culture, learn another friends, another language in an already very difficult transitional time in their life already.
Yeah.
So be mindful of that. Be mindful of how homesickness can impact not only you, but your family of all ages.
Anything else regarding the non-financial?
The cost of building new community, finding people who, your tribe.
Yeah, that's important too.
Intentional. You have to be intentional with that. So plan for these things, not only the financial aspect of planning for these things, but the experiences that you want to have, the people that you want to meet. Plan and be intentional with the cost of the time it may take you to do those things. There's something I've found that I've met some people who have traveled and are trying to build community, but it's hard for them to build community because of how much they have to work, whether they work remote. And so they find themselves a little isolated and with a lack of community because they cannot invest the time to build community and get out. So make sure that you are aware of not just the cost of moving and the expenses, but to build a completely different life, a community, a lifestyle with your family. All of these things are going to cost you.
And I think one more thing that we kind of talked about earlier is visiting schools. Because here you actually have to physically go to these schools, make an appointment and go check them out. That takes time and energy. So keep those things in mind too. You're going to have to visit several schools to figure out what's going to be the best fit for you and your children. So one more thing.
Yes, no, that's good. And we're not saying these things to overwhelm you. We don't want you to feel overwhelmed. We just want to be very forthcoming with things that we have had to learn. And some of us the hard way. Deal with and build community and build the reserves to go to visit these schools, to check them out. And these things come at a cost. So just be mindful of It's not the pie in the sky. Oh, I'm just moving. I'm going to a different country and it's going to cost a lot less and I'm going to be saving so much money. As true as this is and can be, there is some wiggle room in the very beginning and some grace that you have to give yourself. Don't land in a new country and immediately expect that you're going to cut your expenses in half right away because of the initial expenses it costs to just adjusting to a new country in a new city. And I think that was the one of the most important things we wanted to make sure that we honed in on today.
Yes.
With this podcast, with this episode.
All right, so let's go ahead and move on to what actually saves families money. All right, so we talked about housing already. Once you land in your place, if it's Medellin, understanding how much different areas cost. We talked about this in the housing video, so go check out the renting video or neighborhood video.
Mm-hmm.
But different neighborhoods are different stratos.
Mm-hmm.
And according to the strato, your taxes are going to be higher, your utilities are going to be higher. Like a lot of things, most things on that dealing with that property is going to be higher the higher your strato is. If you're go ahead.
I was going to say real quick, when you hear strato, think about county, wards, or boroughs. Depending on where you're from, it would be considered a strato here, just to kind of the way they divvy up different sections of the city.
Right. Most expats, when you first come, are living in the higher stratos because, we want kind of what we're used to, the comfort, the space, the luxury, the nice places that we are typically used to. So we're going to pick those higher spaces, which is going to be Poblado, Laureles, probably like Envigado, Belen. See, but I think Belen is not that bad yet, but it's probably going to get there. It's probably going to get there. So you got to just think about those types of things and keep those in check. And if you want lower cost, understand you're going to have to live more local, and it may not be as comfortable for you as you would like, or it may be. It depends on the type of person you are, but you're definitely going to probably have an older place. The community is going to look different than what you would probably be used to. So just think about those things. When you hear somebody say, oh, I'm renting a place in Colombia for $500, well, what does that place look like? Where is it located? Don't just think they're living in this nice place for only $500.
They're probably in strato 1 or 2.
Right.
Maybe 3.
And the stratos go up to 5, right?
I think they go up to 5 or 6.
Yeah. So think about that. Affordable transportation. We talk a lot about ride shares, and while it is affordable, public transportation is even more affordable, and that's what most locals will take. So it's a great public transportation system here. I don't take it, but I see it. They have multiple bus lines, bus companies, trains, the metro, all types of things to get around.
The cable cars, the gondolas.
Yeah. Yep. So if you are trying to stay within a budget, I would say live in a neighborhood that's very walkable, where you can walk to most of your necessities and also be able to comfortably walk to those bus stops or those train stations. If you're up in the hills, it's not going to be as easy. Just FYI. So just kind of keep those things in mind.
I want to say something. I've recently learned within the last week that Colombians, the paisas here in Medellin, they are very, very, very proud of their public transportation system. They're very proud because they're clean, they're affordable, they're quick, and I think it's mainly the metro train that they're really proud of. And I found out a little history about it. I won't share it here because I would encourage you, if you're trying to learn the country and the city, to learn these things yourself. But they're very, very proud of their public transportation system, especially the metro train. And it's a very, very affordable and quick way because there's a lot of traffic here too.
Oh, yes.
So that's one of the quickest ways to get in and around this city for a fraction of what we foreigners pay for an Uber ride.
Ubers and DD cars and things like that.
That's a smarter way to travel, but I haven't figured it out yet. I haven't even tried it yet, but that is my goal soon.
Yeah. Buying local produce from your fruterias or local markets. You don't have to go to the big grocery store. On each corner of every neighborhood, you're going to have a little tienda that has some fruit and vegetables in it, or a little fruit and vegetable market, which we call fruterias or a thing. So go to those places and pick up your produce, because it's going to be much cheaper than going to the big supermarkets, even though it's still affordable in the big supermarkets. But if you just know, just know also that you're going to have to buy your produce more often, because it's going to go bad quicker, because they don't use preservatives and chemicals and all that stuff on their food. So you're going to consistently and constantly have to go buy those things. So that can save you on some costs. Not going out as much. Stay in the house sometimes. You can't go to every event and every activity, because again, every time you leave the house, it comes with a cost of something, right? So lower your entertainment costs. Start doing some more things at home, just like when you were in your home country. You know, if you're spending too much outside, you're going to find some stuff to do inside to entertain yourself.
That's true.
Think about also outdoor recreation and doing the free things. Like they have a lot of sports complexes where you can do a lot of the things outside, go walking, but basketball, soccer, like a lot of things you can just go out and enjoy, take your kids to the park, the playgrounds, just normal things. But we don't have in the United States those big sports complexes that are free like they have here. Usually you do have to pay for those, but here you don't. You can just go, and if it's available, just enjoy it, right? So think about those, and then reduce the dependence on cars, which is where I talk about living in a place that's more walkable. We choose to live in Laureles because it is walkable.
It's a flatter part of the city, so it's a little easier of a walk. I mean, there's hills here. Trust me, there are hills here, but it's a little easier walking here in this part of town as opposed to some of the other areas which are really hilly and very they have a lot of inclined walking, and if you are not physically fit to handle that, and I think both of us are physically fit to handle that, but we have children, so it's a little harder.
I'm not physically fit to handle those hills.
She can handle it.
I don't want
to. Okay, being physically fit and not wanting to is not the same. It's not the same. You don't want to.
But you know, I think about some of these hills and the inclines, like how steep it is, and
Man,
I'm like, woo, I breathe halfway through.
Think San Francisco. Think San Francisco when it comes to the hills and the walk, because it's very similar the way the landscape is here in Medellín Colombia.
So giving yourself some of that breathing room so you're not stressed out, overspending, not saving as much as you would like to save, because the point of relocating is to try to save some money, have a better lifestyle, which you will have a better lifestyle. But that money piece is also a trick, because even with a better lifestyle, for example, myself, I pay for a nanny. That's another expense that, you know, I have to pay for. But I do it because it helps me with my lifestyle, makes me feel better, and helps me out in general. But it is an extra expense. So keep those things in mind.
Okay. Yes. Good stuff. I want to go back to real quick when you were talking about the produce and it not lasting. And I don't think we think about the cost of that, the mental space to shift how we even buy food. We can't buy food and just store it in a refrigerator for like weeks at a time and think that it's going to be good. We have to transition our mental space to say, this is fresh produce and it needs to be eaten within a few days. And that costs to just a mental shift in how we even have a relationship with the food that we get and we consume here.
And even to your point, with some of the vegetables, I'm like, you know how you can flash them and freeze them? I've done that because if I know I have vegetables, like, okay, I'm not gonna be able to get to this and I know it's gonna go bad, I do the whole flash thing situation. If you don't know what that is, this is like boiling water, putting your veggies in the water for just a moment, taking them out, you know, and then freezing them immediately. And that's basically what they do with frozen food in the markets. And then I put it in a Ziploc bag in the freezer, and then I pull it out as I need it. That just helps me save a little bit of money too.
So it doesn't go bad.
And then a lot of times when you get produce, it's huge. It's way larger than what we're used to. So I can go get a zucchini. It is this big. I can't eat all of that. And you know what I mean? Like, so it's like, okay, you chop this up. This is really like 2 or 3 meals that we can eat with, you know, this with. So it's like those types of things you have to get your mindset around. Like, okay, if you want to go buy produce on a regular basis, that's fine. But if you feel like, oh, I can't eat all of this, then you got to still get in that mindset of, how do I store this? Or how do I save this so I can eat it later, you know? Because that's going to save you money. All right, well, let's go ahead and we're gonna wrap this up.
We wrapping this up, putting the bow on this, tying this up just nicely for you. Families, parents, and families, we want you to know to prepare and to not be scared to relocate. These are just some of the unforeseen expenses that can happen when you first relocate to a city or a new country. And we want you to be mindful of these things because a lot of people are not talking about these things. So we want you to be as prepared as you can, but hang loose a little bit because still have a little discretionary for you to hang loose and enjoy just being in a new city, in a new country. And yes, Medellin Colombia is extremely affordable. It is very affordable. But you may not see it immediately, and you may be wondering, is it really that affordable? But give yourself enough time to get acclimated to the new city, the new country, the new routine, and your new space, your new grocery stores, how to get transported around the city for you to be able to see how affordable it can be for you.
Yeah.
And also making the decisions of where do we want to stay, because that lifestyle can creep up on you too, where, oh man, I can pay this amount of money and I can live here. And yes, you can live really nice, have a condo, have a house in the hills. You can do all of these things, have a finca house. You can do all of these things and have a really nice place to live. And it's going to be less than what you pay in the United States. But there's some costs that come with that too that people don't talk about. And especially if you're living up in the hills, you do not have your own car and you have to pay for transportation. And if most of your dealings is in the city, that transportation cost is going to creep up on you. So do your research, plan, but understand that you could live for fractions of what you pay back in the States. And one of the most important thing that we have not covered, that we need to cover, which is an unexpected expense, is knowing the value of the US dollar.
Oh yeah. Because it has dropped.
Because it has dropped. And so why is this important? Typically, not right now, but typically $1 is about 4,000.
Last year,
pesos.
it was that.
It was
when
about
I moved
that.
here, it was 4,000 pesos to $1, and it is now.
It's closer to 3.2 the last time I checked, which was like a week and a half ago. It might be different now. But why is that important? Because I'll give you an example. Where we live in the United States and you're not used to your money fluctuating at all. The dollar is a dollar is a dollar is a dollar. And although inflation may increase, and that's where you see you losing some of your money, the value essentially, the dollar is a dollar. It's not the same when you live outside of the country. When you live outside of the country, for example, where we used to live, the rent was close to $1,100. Okay. With the drop of the value of the dollar, and especially if you're making your money in the US and you're converting your money to Colombian pesos, that $1,100 home that we were living in now is easily $1,400 a month.
Same thing happened to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if you're not planning for that, that can creep up on you so quick, and you have planned to pay this amount of rent for your 6 to 12 month lease, and that your plans can be rudely abrupted by the value of the dollar.
And that's just rent.
And that's
remember,
just rent.
we're converting the US dollar to the peso for everything. So not just your rent is going up, everything you pay for is now going to go up because the dollar is falling. So yeah, that changes your budget dramatically.
Now it's all good when the value of that dollar goes up, because now you're paying even less for everything, and that feels good. But during a time like right now, where the value of the US dollar is not as powerful as it once was, as a foreigner, as an American expat, you will feel that in your bank. You will feel that in your pocket. You will feel that in your daily expenses. You will feel that. So be mindful of always being sure you check the conversion rates, because that is also going to impact your daily life, your monthly life, getting visas, all of these things. It will impact your frame of living in another country. So If you don't take anything else away from that, know the value of the dollar if you're making U.S. currency.
Yes.
And with that, I don't have anything else.
No,
that pretty
that
much
was it.
lands our plane.
I think so.
Don't be afraid to move. Just be mindful and make sure that you are knowledgeable about some of the expenses that can creep up with you. And with that,
we are
Mamas
Beyond the Matrix.
And we're here with another episode talking about the unexpected expenses with moving abroad. And we hope that you like and subscribe. Push that little button there, like and subscribe. And we have also a digital gift for you.
Yes, we have our 90-day relocation checklist. So it's customized it's really for Medellin. However, a lot of the information is relevant for any country you're going to go to. Kind of gives you a breakdown of what needs to happen before you even leave your country. So pick that up. It is free. And we are also working on our relocation guide specifically for Medellín Colombia. So once that comes out, if you're on that list, then you automatically get an email telling you that the guide is available and you can pick that up. So we are here every Friday. At least try to be, unless we have something going. Majority of the time, we're here every Friday live. And if we can't be live, it may just be a recorded video. So check out our lives and our videos if you want to see our content, because it may be a little bit different. But we're here to give you the information that we wish we had before we relocate.
Yes. And follow us on all platforms: Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Mamas Beyond the Matrix. And we will be happy to communicate with you there and keep in contact with you there. So follow us. Okay. And that's it.
Yeah, that's it.
Thank you for joining.
Thank you. We'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye. See you.
All right. Let me see.